You've tuned in to the Beyond Hope podcast, your access to success strategies and more to help you survive and thrive through your loved one's addiction challenges while you move onward and upward with your life. Now, here's your host, Shar Jones.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. This is Shar Jones, and I'm the host of Beyond Hope, and I'm also the mother of an addict. So I understand what it means to love someone who struggles with addiction. It has been a very long journey for me, but I have gotten to a place of hope, beyond hope, which is kind of the ironic twist to the name, that I think really hope is where the healing begins. And on the other side of hope is life and joy and love and all these things that are no longer contingent upon the recovery of our addicts. So what I'm hoping to do with this podcast is bring to you so many people that I respect and admire, experts within the industry of addiction and recovery who have so much valuable information to share with me, with you, with all of us. And in addition, we'll be bringing you some stories of hope and hopefully some laughs, maybe some tears along the way, but it's going to be all good. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to this journey with you.
It's like subjecting yourself to just hopping in the ring with Mike Tyson.
Right? That's what it feels like.
You know, it's like, all right, so I'm going to do it anyways out of love because I just love Mike Tyson so much that I'm going to step in the ring with him, and I'm just going to take this, what feels like abuse.
Yeah.
And we volunteer for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we volunteer for that. So if you know that you're going to walk into a hairy situation, come prepared.
Hi, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. Before I get into part 2 of my interview with Chad, I have some very exciting news, and I can barely contain myself. As a mother of a young adult addict who went through hell in her addiction, and many times where I thought that I was going to lose her to her addiction, I know how important this news is. So Habilitat is extending an opportunity your way, a full, all expenses paid opportunity for your loved one to participate in Habilitat's program free of charge. And to qualify, please visit their website at habilitat.com or call them at 1-800-USA-2525 to speak with someone in admissions. The requirements: ability to commit to 2 years of residential treatment, and they must be able to meet all of the medical and legal prerequisites. This scholarship opportunity is reserved for those families who truly don't have the financial means to assist their loved one with the cost of treatment. So please give them a call and allow them to assess if this opportunity is right for your loved one. And to Habilitat, just thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for extending this opportunity. It means so much. And this will truly be a life-saving opportunity for one family. So thank you. And with that, here is the rest of my interview with Chad. We're going to dive in some more into enabling. We're going to share some tips with you. And I'm just so honored to share Chad with you tonight, and have an incredible week, and I'll talk to you soon.
And doesn't mean I can't ask them for advice or get help or have some financial assistance or whatever it is, right? That stuff's okay. That's what the family's for, right? They support each other. It's just when there's too much weight on one end of it, because we are scared that our children won't be able to survive for themselves. Hey, listen, when push comes to shove, people will find a way to live. People will find a way to survive, to eat, to get what they want. A lot of times people just need a push. A lot of times that family situation isn't always a good one. I've found a lot of the time, Shar, and I'm sure you've encountered this before, that there are a lot of overbearing mothers who want to control their children or fathers. They want to control every aspect of their life. And really the best thing for the child is for them to step out of the way completely for a while.
Yeah.
And then when the child has become independent on their own, if they have the desire to reestablish a different type of relationship with the parent, then they can do that also. And sometimes that requires monitoring. It's going from one extreme to the next and then finding the balance. And it takes time. It's hard from a parent's perspective and a child's perspective.
It really is.
I don't know if you've encountered that before, where you've had that scenario.
With the overbearingness?
Right. And then what helps the person is the parent removing themselves completely from the situation.
Well, yeah. And I mean, you'll hear people call them helicopter moms, or, there's a lot of different ways where it's a control thing, but it all comes down to that codependency.
Sure.
And probably the fear of being alone, or, I'm sure there's many different things that cause that to happen. But as the son or daughter starts to mature and recognizes, as you mentioned, if you're feeling like you're relying too much on your parent for these things, and you recognize when you're at an age where you should be able to do things more for yourself, what do you do as a kid? Well, you find a mentor, you find somebody in your community. Maybe it's volunteering. Maybe it's, if your role model is not within your family, maybe you're looking outside of your home for that kind of support and that modeling that you're lacking inside the home.
Sure. And I think you're exactly right. And if a kid looks around, because if that's the goal of the parents, is to try to find a mentor or get a child more involved in a community on an independent level. But the way they view the world, their friends and their support groups that they look around, they're all in the same situation, then they're going to think nothing's wrong.
Yeah.
They're going to rebel against that. It won't register. They may say, well, wait a sec. But Johnny and Mary and Bobby, they all live with their parents still and rent free, and they work part-time jobs, and there's always food in the refrigerator, and they have free reign to do whatever. And so if they're not causing problems, why is it you that's coming in and saying that's not fair? Right. So don't expect, if these new ideas that get brought to play are rejected at first.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to start earlier.
Yeah.
And, I'm not surprised with the response of that.
Yeah. I was reading in this article again, a few more things. There were some tips on this article, and where did I pull this from? But it's basically 9 tips for family members to stop enabling the addict. So the first one was gain support from peers. So Al-Anon and whatnot, going to meetings, reaching out, finding people who understand what you're going through. I mean, that was a huge one for me, because there's so much shame attached to addiction. And there's so much pride from parents who have the star athlete, or the kid that went to college, or, the soloist in the choir or whatever. And if you're a parent who has a child that is struggling with addiction, you need to find somebody who understands, because if you're going to try to gain support from those around you that don't have the tools and don't have the understanding, you're not going to get the support that you need. So you need to find support from people who get it, who've been there. And when you start to explore that, you're going to find that you are not alone. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of parents who know exactly what you're going through.
Absolutely.
The second one is talking openly about the shift. So that's, having that conversation, deciding to have the conversation. What are the consequences going to look like? Asking more questions, listening, working in teams. We talked about, so if you're going to teaming up with your husband or your wife when you're having conversations with your addict, if you're the enabler, I love that suggestion. Don't make excuses or cover up the behavior. So if you are calling in sick, I read that and I'm like, do parents really do that? If you are calling in sick for your kid, stop it. You are going to kill your kid. It's whatever, if you're doing that, when I read that, it just blows my mind. But if, so that kind of those making up excuses or trying to cover it up so that you can portray this image that your family is perfect. I mean,
right.
It's not fair. No family is perfect. Don't buy or offer drugs or alcohol to the abuser. Let the police do their job.
Right?
Yeah.
They're not there to make people's life worse. It's just if you're doing something that's going to endanger yourself or others, then they're going to step in and help you understand that by arresting you or issuing a consequence or telling you that what you stole, you need to pay back. And we get mad at the cops a lot for doing their job, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, do you agree with that though? If you've got a mom that comes to you and is saying that my son or daughter keeps stealing from me, I mean, what would you say?
Well, I mean, the authorities can get involved. It's just, is that really going to solve the problem? Is that going to stop them from doing that again? So yes, that I agree. That is a good way. That is a surefire way, that doesn't involve the mom or the parent to have to deal with that themselves to handle the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting that that's the best answer, but don't be afraid. If you are living in fear, if you've got your son or daughter dealing drugs in the things that are going on, these things are going on. If you have your son or daughter that's dealing drugs in your home, if your son or daughter is being physically abusive with you when they're on drugs, if they're stealing from you, if they're pawning your stuff, what you allow will continue. I'm just saying, again, it goes back. Yeah,
I'm on board with you.
Right?
I'm on board. Call the cops.
I've never had to call, thank God, I've never had to call the cops on my daughter, but I'm not saying that I wouldn't. If it was about saving her life, I would do that.
Sure.
Number 7, reassessing financial relationships. So again, this goes back to if they're missing work and if they're leaning on you for financial support, things like that. It's time to have a conversation. And it all goes back to boundaries. Working with a counselor and continuing to emphasize treatment for addiction. And as you know, they're not going to go running to treatment the first time you bring up the conversation.
It's a tough sell. They're going to want to go, most likely, and I don't want to put this stamp on everybody, but they're going to want to try something easy at first. And based on most assessments out there, based on the answers they're going to give to the questions asked in those assessments, it's going to be some sort of a low level of care if it's their first go around.
Yeah.
So that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, I know.
That's a whole other topic about my opinion on that. They got to have something out there, some sort of standard to go by. So it's a tough sell the first time, but hey, first time for everything, I guess.
Yeah.
That you deal with the professionals. Parents, if you're not a professional, then don't think that you're going to fix your kid.
Yeah, thank you. I always say that. It's like, we have to stop trying to fix our kids. That is not our job.
Yeah. Not a top news headline that says, there's a new remedy for fixing addiction that says, hey, this is what the parent does to get your kids straight.
Yeah.
And, I've come into contact with a lot of old school parents who their opinion on it is they need to join the military. They need to be locked in a room and just to write it out and then put a shovel in their hand and learn a hard work ethic and they'll sweat it out and they'll move past it. Yeah, that is a way, I wouldn't say throw the option out the window just yet. Right. Because there are some old school fathers, the Vietnam era fathers who believe that that's what their kid needs, their spoiled son. Right. So, and I'm not saying that, they shouldn't, maybe somewhere in between. We want to modernize a little bit.
Yeah. What I love about having these conversations with you is we are just sharing ideas, and neither one of us claims to have it all figured out by any means. But I think just having a safe place to talk about some of these things and explore different ideas is so important. And so I'm just so grateful to you for that. Enabling is a huge topic. And I think the idea that if you are doing things for your adult son or daughter that they should be able to do for themselves, if you are interrupting the normal flow of consequences, then you're probably enabling, and in an unhealthy way.
Sure.
To start that, to change that flow of behavior, it's coming to terms with it. So I always recommend that moms or dads, I deal mostly with moms, is just sit down and write it all out. Every way that you think that you're enabling your son or daughter, and then exploring outside of yourself. So their other parent, their sisters and brothers, aunts and uncles, really seeing as a family unit, how is the family contributing to this behavior? And then making a decision what you're going to tolerate and not tolerate, and get united, and then have a conversation with them about what will or will not tolerate. Yeah.
I like the idea of writing things down, and you don't even have to use the word enabling. A lot of parents may resent that or reject it, and may not understand that what they're doing is enabling. So simply writing the things out that they do, just do. What do you do for your child? What are the things that your child, what do you directly do for them? And what do they take from you? What is it they rely on you for? And don't even propose it as something that's like a bad thing, or make it seem like it's a bad thing that they're doing. It's just a general thing of make that list and just go, and keep writing and keep writing and keep writing and until you stop. And then ask yourself, so if I was my son or daughter's age, how many of those things would match up with what I was doing at that time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then make the comparison. Sure. And just say, man, I can only match up like 3 or 4 things out of the 25 I wrote for my son that I was doing with my parents when I was 22 or 25 or 30.
You know what's crazy? I just had this thought too, is like, if your list is of those 25 things, okay, you've got that list now that you're looking at. You are just one source to that addict. Think of all of the ways and all the people, even society and organizations that are contributing to that addict being able to get high.
Sure.
And they're letting a lot of people are contributing to this addict's behavior. It's not just you.
Yeah.
They learn how to manipulate.
Correct. You're absolutely correct.
I would be blown away by some of the different programs that, I would find out that my daughter had tapped into, to pay for her rent, to pay for her food, to pay for her shelter, to clothes, they are very resourceful.
I get it. And that could be another topic of conversation.
Okay.
Of how treatment centers, what works and what doesn't, what should be there and what isn't.
Yeah.
And why isn't it?
Definitely. I would like to have that conversation too. And so I think, in closing, I think just taking a very honest evaluation and assessment of how you are contributing to this behavior. And I'm not even going to get into, is it a disease or not? I really don't care. You've got a situation here that could lead to them dying. That's what we're dealing with.
Sure.
I mean, what's the statistic now of overdoses? It was like in 2017, something like 65,000 they know of. I'm sure there's a lot more than.
I think in 2016 it was 64,000.
Okay.
I think that was the number of.
I think you're right.
Substance use deaths, not just overdoses. It was a combination of a lot of things, but it was the bare bones of it was substance use.
And I forget what, I actually have it right here. Hold on here. What the number was. And this is a ways back, if you're in 1980. So in 1980, the number was less than 10,000. Less than 10,000 overdoses. And that steady increase over the years. So it was like in 1992 or so is when they hit 10,000 overdoses. And then from there, it's just continued to rise.
So I think fentanyl played a part. I think of ease of access. There's probably more people in the world than there was 30, 40 years ago. So that number is going to by default go up.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, it's a nasty situation. Big pharma plays a role.
I read an article too today that was something about they're saying that actually drug use is on the decline for the 12 to 17-year-old age group.
Oh, good.
But they think that that's attributed to smartphones, so that the addiction to drugs and alcohol and things like that is being released by this stimulation from phones. So phone gaming addictions. So that's interesting.
I saw that.
Did you?
There's an article that I read yesterday or the day before about, I don't know if it was the CDC looking to whether they classify gaming addiction as a disease or not. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's arguments for it and against it. Right.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting seeing the transition from one thing to the next.
Yeah.
Right. Because if it gets classified as a disease, then insurance will pay for the treatment of it.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Ew.
Right. Right. So, that could be a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing. It's just another thing.
It's another thing. Yeah. Well, I guess
it's another thing.
There's so many things, but you know what?
Yeah.
I guess for me is what I've learned, in all my years is like anytime that you're going outside of yourself to solve something,
Uh-huh.
the real work starts within. So yeah.
Sure.
So whether it's your phone or gambling or food or, whatever, but addiction, drug addiction and alcoholism, I think it's still painfully misunderstood. And I think we're still learning.
Sure.
Yeah. But I'm just so grateful to you for just coming back and continuing the conversation with me. And I really want to get more questions. I want people to send us questions that we can address on the show. So,
sure.
Yeah. So
likewise.
So let's work on that. And thank you. Thank you for being here.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I always enjoy chit-chatting with you about this stuff. And maybe one day we'll start to conclude and make some evidence and back our play a little more. And it's a fun journey. We just want to make our impact, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we will.
We're already doing it.
Yeah, we are. Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in and for helping me to connect with other moms of addicts or loved ones who are struggling with addiction in their lives. If you have questions for me, comments, suggestions on future show content, or perhaps there's a specific topic that you would like to hear from an expert in the field, I would love to hear from you. I am also interested in sharing your voice. So if you have messages of hope or personal stories that you think would resonate with our listeners, please send me an email. You can type me out a message, or you can include an attachment to an audio clip with your voice. You can send that to Shar at beyondhoperadio.com. And with that, thank you again, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Beyond Hope. For show notes and more, head on over to beyondhoperadio.com.
A huge thank you to recoveryinnovators.com and James Healy. Thank you so much for putting up with me and for helping me to produce and launch the show. I couldn't have done it without you. You are so awesome. And to anybody else who has been considering working with James, highly recommend him. Please go over to his website and check it out, recoveryinnovators.com.